Chapter 2 Beginnings Sydney, Perth, and the place in between. In the early hours of 31st August 1977, the final throes of the fifth Ashes Test flickered into Australian living room. It came from the Oval in London via the television coverage provided by Kerry Parker's Channel 9, and the broadcast was significant. A rain ruined much at the end of a dunk tour for Greg Chappell's team had been overshadowed by the looming Broadway of World Series cricket, orchestrated by Parker so he could broadcast cricket in the Australian summer and take for himself all the associated commercial benefits. Australian cricket was at the moment of great change, and all had been rebuilt in the midst of that Ashes campaign. Ribbon into two groups of WSC signatories and the rest, the touring party was divided off the field and miserable on it. Another event marked the morning of 31st August in January, the birth of Christopher John Llewellyn Rogers, second son of John and Ross. If not quite born at the batting crease, certainly arrived in its vicinity. John's life had been lived in and around cricket circle. His younger brother Drake was among the outstanding cricketers of the New South Wales Ribble, while John advanced as far as a quarter of appearances for the New South Wales Sheffield Shield side in the 1960s. He established himself as a stalwart of the St. George first grade side, then as captain coach of the nascent University of New South Wales club, where one of his cricketing pupils was Jeff Lawson, the future Australian Test fast bowler. John's attacking captaincy rubbed off one of the younger men, as he acknowledged it in his autobiography. Henry and Lawson's capacity of New South Wales in turn influenced two future Australian captains, Mark Taylor and Steve Wolf. John's own education in the game had arrived in part through the testing experience of matching with the Richie Bernard leg breaks in grade competition years before. In November 1963, John found himself battling against Bernard at the outset of the older man's final season as an Australian cricketer. John remembers well the experience of watching the master ball in the nets at exhibition at Sydney's Royal Easter Show, where he would bowl blindfolded at the handkerchief placed on the pitch, and repeatedly hit it. Their relationship broadened in later years, when Bernard employed John as an assistant at his consulting company, Based in the same Coogee apartment, Bernard and his wife Dorothy would call home right up until his death in 2015. John helped with various elements of the business and would watch fascinated on Thursday afternoons when Bernard put together his weekly newspaper column in little more than half an, half an hour of fierce concentration. I think Bernard once told John, through my fingers. 3 years after Chris was born, John was appointed general manager of the Western Australia Cricket Association. The family moved from the East Coast to the West, thrusting John into the cricket politics of the time. WA players were a large chunk of the test team, including the paralyzed and paralyzing trio of Rod Marsh, Dennis Lee, and Kim Hughes. As we recounted in cricket annals, Hughes was the establishment's choice to stand in for and ultimately replace Greg Chappell. Marsh felt he should lead, and so too did Lilly. Their squabbles and the related aftershocks, which stood at the center of Australian cricket for years on end, would often cross John's desk. Arguably, John's major achievement at the WSCA was to coffer a report that outlined how much money the game was generating for poker and the pitifully small dividends for the ACB. That report started a process that led to a richer television deal for Australian cricket, a fully equipped administration, and for better paid players. Those benefits were just starting to appear as Chris found himself drawn to the game in his teens, beginning the path towards something only barely imaginable for an Australian cricketer on that late August 9 in 1977, the life of a full-time professional. Watching Chris work his way through junior cricket and tennis ranks, John Rogers saw a shy, introverted son who possessed plenty of fighting qualities. These come to the fore when playing sports. It showed on the tennis court most. Essentially, he was a little kid, battling as hard as he could. In cricket, it was more that as a little kid, he was difficult to get out, made more noticeable by the fact that his talented elder brother somehow did get out much more easily. In the backyard against his brother and various friends, he could be very sorry, but then competing against other terms, he was much more concerned at staying in the contest. He was very shy, very conscious of his lack of height, and did not like his frizzy hair one bit. But there was a quiet self-confidence there too that showed in sports. He'd keep battling. thought he had experienced something like the top of the game as a first-class cricketer for New South Wales. John never pushed great expectation upon his son. He simply wanted to see him do his best. John saw plenty of young talent. Some progressed, others didn't. What he saw increase was a player capable of working in his through situation and determination of to keep working. I never ever talked to him about playing for Australia. It was it was only ever doubt about doing as best as he could. The kids in older years always looked much better, as did the WA cricket team as he started doing well in grade cricket and WA youth teams. I've seen a lot of good kids do well from my own playing days in so many different ways, and I reckoned he has something. When he showed he was keen on cricket, it was more matter of me hoping he would get as much out of cricket as I had, and just as I had never really thought I was anywhere good enough to play for New South Wales, let alone Australia. I held no such specific ambitions for him and never talked about it. It was more about doing well at the level he was at. Of course, the personal characteristics stood out. I've been hundreds of kids in a range of sports who have stood out clearly from the rest. Usually they are quicker than anyone else, strong and well balanced, are very competitive. Reads the play much quicker, and when they are posting way or fall asleep. Of course, the personal characteristic stood out. I've seen hundreds of kids in a range of sports who have stood out clearly from the rest. Usually they are quicker than anyone else, strong and well balanced, are very competitive, read the play much quicker, and often they have a pleasure way of doing it that attracts attention immediately. Until he turned 15 and started to grow, Chris was always one of the smallest in his class. In your in his year group, lacked strength, was not the fast runner, and had no particular charisma, and attracted little attention. For some reason, for some reason, even as he got stronger, the perception by outsiders continued. It was only those people who took an internet and teammate who noticed that he had something few others that had. Essentially, this was his capacity to persevere, to keep this cool, to his own thing in his own time. Damn.